Hey guys, it's Saf here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today's video I want to talk about a fusion that we had recently that a lot of people were basically desperate to skip. Not because the champion was necessarily terrible, but because they were kind of fed up with the game a little bit. But I always thought it was a very, very good champion. I actually championed this over a lot of people who were complaining it was a bit similar to other champions that had already been released in the game, even some that are fusions. Now, of course, the champion I'm talking about is Strategos ISLIN. He is kind of like what most people thought was a Hydra champ, but actually I think he's a bit more than just a Hydra champion, and it's mainly because of the way that his abilities work. So let's just take a quick deep dive into what is Strategos ISLIN, what do you use him for, and why he is a very good champion. So Strategos was a fusion about 2 months ago. I think maybe 3 months ago, the fusion. By the time this video, it could even be, 4. I can't exactly remember. I have been waiting to book the champion up, but I've also had other champions to book. I finally got him booked now. But what he is kind of focused upon is this A1 provoke. We all know provoke in Hydra is very important. You want to stop that head of decay from cleansing all those debuffs off of your team, and that normally kind of causes a wipe. If the cleanse comes in and then poison cloud goes out and then you get like mischief head stealing things, it just kind of starts the sort of the snowball effect where you lose the fight. So he's got an attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 35% chance of placing provoke, which is booked to 50% for 1 turn. When counterattacking, the chance increases to 50%. So the key thing to note here is each individual hit has a chance. So it's 50 and 50. So you've got 2 50% rolls, which means that this roughly works out at around about a 75% chance whenever you use an A1 that you will provoke. That is as good as it gets for pretty much any A1 provoke in the game. That is reasonably accessible. I think Black Knight, for example, is Force Affinity. He has a 75% provoke on his A1. Now, obviously, you can increase it further with Fearsome Presence. You can put it up to 55%. That pushes it to about 79.75% chance that you're going to provoke. I don't really know if Fearsome Presence is necessarily worth the extra sort of 5% there for that little bit extra chance, but you can choose to do that. Another option is you could also run him in provoke set, so you get the skill provoke chance and then a bonus one from the set if you really want to try and index super hard into this provoke, and that's what you want to use him for. But he's also got a lot more to his abilities. We have an AoE on the A2 here that's a 3-turn cooldown when booked that has a 100% chance of decreasing the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn, and also has a 100% chance of placing a decreased speed for 2 turns, which is incredibly good for Hydra. So you can see why people were saying this is our Hydra champion. But in all aspects of content, being able to decrease the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn is great in places like Arena, because this won't trigger polymorph. Also, decreased speed is incredibly valuable in places like Doom Tower wave progression, in places like wave clearing in general. Faction wars be very good, although High Elves is quite easy once you get Arbiter. It's one of the easier factions to do because one of your starter heroes is there if you went Elhane and a bunch of other things. But it is still a very good ability on a 3-turn cooldown. He is defense based on both abilities as well. Then we have the A3. It's a 4-turn cooldown, which is a bit of a problem for this ability because whenever you want an ally protection buff here, you want it on a 3-turn cooldown so that you can run it in Clan Boss on a 2-1. On a 4-turn, it makes him more of a 4-3 champion in a 1-1 team. So a team that's going 1 turn to the Clan Boss's 1 ability, rather than it being your team taking 2 turns to the Clan Boss's 1 ability. But he will place an ally protection buff on all allies, and he will also place an increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. He'll also place a counterattack on himself, keeping in mind that his A1 has a chance to provoke at sort of 75% chance when he counterattacks. So 2 75% chances means that this is pretty good chance of it happening. And then he places a massive shield on himself. The shield is equal to his own defense, a bit like the Valkyrie shield. So it's a big shield if you scale it. That gets booked down to a 4-turn cooldown. So this is where people started getting similarities with certain previous fusions, because Vasulf is another hero that does an increased defense on all allies with a protection on all allies except himself. That is also on a 3-turn cooldown for Vasulf though. So Vasulf is much better at this than ISLIN. What this is more designed for is making ISLIN more of a powerful champion rather than other allies because of the counterattack and shield. Then we have his passive, which was originally bugged, but they fixed it last patch, not 7.6, but in 7.5. Whenever this champion is attacked, it heals them by 1% of each 500 defense this champion has. So when you're building him, you need to be very careful about the 500 defense intervals, right? You want to build him at 4,500, 5,000, 5,500, 6,000. So when you're optimizing or when you're trying to build out his kit, keep mindful that, you know, if you're like 4,250 defense, then it might be better to push an extra 250 defense to reach that breakpoint. It won't actually apply until you hit 4,500 defense. He will also heal all other allies who have ally protection placed by him by 30% of the skill's initial heal. So if he heals a lot, then he will heal 30% of that to all of his allies. Now, what was bugged originally was this healing didn't happen unless this heal restored missing HP. They coded it incorrectly, so instead of it being based on the total heal, it was only based on the amount of health that was restored, the actual missing HP. Well, if he's got a shield, 9 times out of 10, and when you see me playtest him, he never takes any damage, so you never get the heal. They fixed that now, so it's based on the total heal, which is really nice. So the more defense you scale, the more AoE healing you give. He's also got a 60 accuracy aura in all battles, which is quite high. I think the highest in the game is 80, so he's like 20 off the top, and it is all battles. 20k HP, really good base HP, really good base defense at 1520, 102 speed is really good. Now, here's some of the issues with the counterattacking and provoke specifically with Hydra. In order for you to get counterattacked, you need to be attacked. And in order for him to be attacked by the head that needs to be provoked, the only one that is not immune to provoke, which is the head of Decay, I keep messing them up, I think it's Decay, then that head of Decay will attack the target with the lowest health and place heal reduction. He's never ever going to be in a situation where he is ever in the lowest health. And this is a failure of sort of testing by the team over in Plarium. Because the moment you put him in any sort of build, you immediately realize that the combination of his passive self-healing with this ally protection, increased defense, and the big shield means he's never going to get counterattacked. He's never going to get this second component work in Hydra. Now, it's pretty good for wave content because they might attack him in other conditions. Maybe it's an affinity question, or maybe there's other things. It could be that all the other enemies are AoE attacking. But where you really want to maximize this provoke is in Hydra, and he never gets that counterattack benefit. So you almost forget the second sentence. I'm not sure what they can do to make that better. Maybe they should just have made it 50% to 75% on each attack, but maybe that's too strong. Or maybe they need to change the condition so that it's not based on counterattack. Maybe it's based on if he's attacking a target with lower defense than him or something of that nature, where you can actually have more control over it. But that being put aside, how have I built Strategos ISLIN? So I built him specifically to go into my hard Hydra team. That's where I started with. I needed a team now with Hydra Clash that could push some pretty big numbers, add some stability to a team that had a lot of damage dealers, and also be able to provoke the head of Decay. That was his job. Heal, provoke the head of Decay, and we put a bit of damage on him because he does have counterattack. So you will pick up a lot of War Master procs, a lot of different bits of damage as well. And he does provide an increased defense buff, so he has a mechanism to buff himself. You don't need to bring another increased defense buff. So that is kind of a good thing. That's how I approached it originally. But I actually think he has more utility that is bonkers to me. And we're going to look at it now. So he has no awakening right now. We have no blessings on him. So he's in a pretty good kind of position. Now, the build that I've got him on, I would say, is somewhere in the region of good to strong, but not OP, right? You can see we haven't ascended all the gear up right now. We're using a 5-star banner because we're just using one of the protection accessories that we've managed to get for this faction. And we do have some mythical gear here. We can kind of take a look through. We can see, you know, this is not a bad piece. It's got some crit damage in there, but it's nothing crazy. This is an okay piece. We get some good accuracy speed, but, you know, it's a low defense percentage roll. We're also looking at defense rolls. This could have rolled 14%. It's rolled 11%, so it's more on the low side. This is a pretty good piece because it's rolled mythical, so we get some good pieces. But again, the defense percentage is on the low side. This piece is probably the strongest piece in here. We get crit rate with crit damage and attack percentage roll. Attack percentage is pretty weak. Doesn't really add any value for that piece for him, but it might do for a future build. We get defense with HP percentage. This is a very good piece. It's kind of all over the place, but it's good high rolls. We've got a 14%, that's maximum roll. 11 is as close as it could be to maximum without being maximum. 22, pretty good. And then again, we have speed with attack percentage, not so great, but we do get defense and resistance. So there is room for growth there on those artifacts. The accessories, he's got a good ring, he's got a good amulet, but there is nothing crazy about these, right? So it's in a strong It's kind of a strong build, but there's a lot of room for growth. I do have him fully booked out. Masteries wise, I'm still working on it. I actually think War Master is better because I think he can produce more damage with War Master, and I don't think the additional 5% chance here is really worth it, in my opinion. I've gone down a standard sort of defense AoE tree. I have taken the Solidarity because he does put up a lot of buffs, which is actually quite nice. You could, if you want to, go down the route with Master Hexer to extend the decreased speed, but I don't really feel like on a 2 for 3 that that's really essential, and obviously Sniper here doesn't benefit the provoking. You could, if you wanted to, go for Lasting Gifts to try and extend his ally protection and his shield buffs and his increased defense. That would probably be more preferable than trying to extend the speed debuff if I was going that route. But, you know, you do gain a bit of value here by having the flat defense, AoE damage reduction, and in long fights, this delay death does do a lot of work. Now, if I had a soul, the blessing I would probably pick on him is probably going to be Brimstone, maybe, but probably also we could look at maybe something like a Temporal Chains, or even if we were using as a Mischief tank, Lightning Cage, just to make sure that with his counterattack ability here, with that extra buff and the Lightning Cage, he's almost always going to have more buffs, so he would be the person that ends up getting the sort of attack from the Mischief Head. So total stats here, especially when we're looking at Hydra specifically, is 48,000 HP, 6k defense. You see, I made sure I got over the 6,000 mark, so we got that extra 1%. We've got him at 267 speed and at 179% crit damage and 274 accuracy. I've put enough resistance so he can resist and land debuffs in hard Hydra. But outside of those areas, it's just a 6k defense, 48k HP, and I've got him like a bit of a damage build. Now, what I want to kind of show off first is basically he's an unkillable god. I think someone told me Nubred says he's the tankiest tank of all, or something of that nature in one of his videos when he first reviewed him, and I have to agree, because I can literally put this guy in any encounter that is Hydra hard or lower, and he will just never die. He just doesn't take any damage. You can see here, we're just running this here. He can do this all day long. I know this is only normal, but he will never take any damage in this encounter. He can pretty much solo climb Doom Tower on his own. And you can see there's that damage coming out. We're picking away at it bit by bit. He will just do this without taking any damage. I've put him up into Hydra hard, solo, and he just, the Hydra heads, the only way they can kill him is to consume him. He just, even when he has no shield, he just takes no damage because he heals all of it straight back. Because of the way that he's defense-based, he's getting 1% of his maximum HP healing every single time he takes damage. You can see he's just basically full healing. Anytime he ever takes damage, he just fully heals. And I'm absolutely blown away by how insanely tanky this guy is for just staying alive. You know, some of these for an early game player are quite hard flaws. For my free-to-play when I was playing it, which I haven't forgotten about. I will be doing content probably when I come back from Vegas. But when I was playing the free-to-play, some of these floors are really difficult. Well, having a champion like this, you may not have as crazy as a gear that I've got, but you can see he is never even breaking a sweat in this crazy gear. So if you had less gear, you can probably still get through some of these really awkward floors. By just scaling his defense, you heal so much. And it's not a terribly fast run, but it's also not terribly slow because he's got counterattack. So every time they attack him, he's able to get some damage out. And the damage multipliers are nothing crazy, but they're pretty good. So if you build him with a little bit of damage like I have, then you can pretty much clear a lot of content. I mean, we can kind of throw him into like a hard floor and see how well he does on lower difficulties. I haven't actually tried this, but curiosity is getting me here. So let's throw him in here. Let's see what he can do against a War Chief. Obviously, War Chief is a bit more awkward. Let's see how much damage they can do to him here. Now, obviously, the War Chiefs, he'll kind of hurt himself, and they'll steal buffs, which is not the best situation. But even against these floors, let's see how much, whether he actually does die. So far, he's just healing. I mean, this is possibly one of the worst floors to test this on because every single champion has either some form of counterattack. But you can see the damage he's taking, he's restoring straight back. It is absolutely bonkers to me how much tankiness he's got here. That he's just got all this self-sustain. And this is like every time he attacks someone, he's either going to take damage or he's going to get counterattacked. And he's healing it all back. Now, it might take him an absolute age to beat some of these Doom Tower hard floors. It would absolutely be a problem. But I'm starting to wonder the old strategies if you don't have Oros the Soul Cage, maybe he's an absolute monster for Borgoth the Scarab King because he places a shield on himself. If I had a silver key, I would give it a try right now for when I'm recording this video. But I'd imagine you could throw him into Scarab and put him in a destroy set, and he would eventually win this. Because he's not in any specific set here, so you could easily find some destroy pieces, and he could replace the Vergis role and probably self-sustain because he's going to heal back all the time, constantly. Because that passive has no cooldown. You can see he's just never dying. He's almost like an unkillable champion, and it's absolutely crazy to me to see how powerful he is. Now, unfortunately, I have used my Strategos ISLIN this week because I'm trying to get all my Hydra keys out of the way ahead of our trip to TwitchCon in Las Vegas. So I'm not able to show you in this video recording what I'm doing right now exactly the true potential of how it was going to be. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some snippets from the live stream where I was actually playtesting this team. I stream on YouTube every Monday and Thursdays, normally when I'm not in Las Vegas, and we basically kind of, you know, try Hydra, we do gear cleansing, we talk about raid, we test different champions out. It's normally a good night, good evening to kind of hang out, ask questions. You know, if you've got questions about the game, you want some answers, any deep questions, I always try to answer as many as I can. But I basically was running this in my Hydra team here. So you can see this is the team that this is my new hard team that I'm experimenting with. The Brogni slot at the moment is very dynamic. I ended this run early because we don't want to, our team strategy this week is we don't really want to kind of push the Hydra Clash. I'll show you now in a minute exactly why we've decided that. So this can do a lot more damage. So we're still trying to figure out who's going to replace the Underpriest Brogni. But you can see without War Master, in this sort of run I did for 24 million, he put up 1.7 million damage, which is really, really good. Considering he has no War Master, he's not getting as much counterattacking going on because we're killing the heads very quickly. It's pretty good damage. The reason why we're not really going for Hydra Clash this week is because we have one more week of Cadaver Clash going on here. It could be by the time this video comes out, we've already bypassed this week's Hydra, but this is just like, when we saw this, we just decided as a clan that we're going to skip this one out. We're just going to do our minimum keys to get the top chest for every single difficulty that we need. And we'll go now in the next clash when there is no more of this nonsense, no more of this Cadaver Clash. So, you know, nice to this guy here to enjoy it one last time, but that's our goal, is to basically kind of lose this one so we get a better matchup, and then we can start matchmaking a bit better. So I'm going to stick in some clips now of that live stream so you can kind of see how he works in Hydra. So where do I think you can use him? I think for Clan Boss, he has potentially some uses early game. You'd have to run him like a 4-3 combo so that you get this on a kind of good cooldown, then run everyone as a 1-1. So for like your first Clan Boss team, he can do a good job for you. He will pump out some good damage, and he will also be unkillable. I actually think his main position here is, you know, where you need Provoke as a unkillable kind of tank that you don't need to worry about, that also provides some healing to your team. You know, we didn't really showcase how much healing the team actually gets here, but we can kind of like throw it into one of these teams here in Doom Tower for a test here. We can put some not so squishy champions, but some reasonably good champions in here that we know are built well. Let's pick out some here. So I've just picked some champions out here that we can kind of throw. I'll just throw, 4 in here. Let's just throw these. These are just some champions. They're not built specifically strong, but we can put this in here now, and we can see what happens when they take some damage. Hopefully we'll see the healing probably come out in a minute. There we go. So we'll see how well he can heal here. Obviously, he's the one that needs to get attacked in order for this to heal. If he's not the one getting attacked, then it is a bit of a problem. Obviously, we know he's unkillable in his nature based on what we just tested. Throw out some of this hex here. Maybe get a revive off here. Now, obviously, if there's no ally protection, then he can't heal. So the only champion who can really heal here is Nogorio. So let's just see how good this healing is now. Let's see if we can slow it down. I'm going to go after Nogorio, of course. There we go. We lose the buffs here. Let's just set it up one more time. Let's see. Maybe we can find a floor that's got a little bit more AoE, because that was very single target heavy. Let's try this floor here. We've got some more different champions. There's some rock breakers. We're just going to protect them up here. Just throw this out. So they has to have ally protection in order for them to take damage. There we go. That should be it now. And they have to attack him, which is always a proven problem because this is a bad wave also. Let's find a good wave. Okay, so we've got a good wave here. These guys will absolutely AoE because it is War Mothers. So let's see if the healing will come out in a second here. We just got to run this through. We want to see how much it heals. 2,800. So it's not really like the same quality of healing, but it's good healing. You can see he is actually sustaining some of their health here. So really, Nogorio would have lost about 10%, but he's only losing about 3%. So he's definitely not what I would call a solo healer here. He will need help with the healing support. It's actually the first time I've ever seen him take some damage here, which is kind of crazy. I'm sure he'll heal up in a moment when they start attacking him again. But yeah, I don't think he can be solo healing. He's basically a supplementary healer. There you go. There's that big heal now. That's what I was waiting for. He is basically a supplementary healer. I don't really think he is someone you can essentially make him do the solo healing job. But on his own here, you can see that the ally protection is what was killing him. When we put the defense up now, he's just going to heal straight back up. So essentially the ally protection weakens his ability to do what I think he's very good at, which is soloing content. It might take him a while, but you can put him in something like a toxic set. You can put him in something, I mean, maybe he can even solo Dragon 20, 25 with food. Now that I'm thinking about it, just like his pure ability to just not take damage adds a lot of value. And defense-based champions in the right setup, considering he can self-buff, is actually quite powerful. So I'm really curious. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video when I get back from Vegas and we will try out like a solo dragon with toxic sets or something, because you don't really need to work hard to keep him alive at all. He's self-sustaining this quite comfortably. So there you go, guys. Strategos ISLIN. The question that most people ask me is, was I disappointed fusing him? Was I disappointed going for the fusion? Actually, no. I'm more excited about what the different things I can potentially do to help people out who have got him, who did go for him, in beating some content. You know, for me, he doesn't add like a tremendous amount of value in the sense that I can beat all the content in the game. I've got champions like Vizix, who people compared him to, Versulf. I've got excellent provokers like Black Knight. I've got an okay set of provoke gear. I'm working on better gear. So there are ways that I can replace that provoke in Hydra, and all other content I can just one-shot it with my awakened champions. But obviously my role here is to try and show you what this champion can do if you have limited options, and he can be an excellent solo tank. I think potentially he can solo Scarab. If I had silver keys, I would absolutely test it. So that may be something I'll do in a future video. Maybe I'll look at a solo build for Strategos ISLIN that isn't revolved around his current build, so that we can see how effective he is at soloing content, how effective he is at beating certain bosses that a lot of people struggle with. You know, Scarab is one of those bosses, once you get Urost, you don't have to worry about it, but you have to get Urost first, and often he can be a roadblock. So having someone that can do this comfortably is a great idea, rather than you having to build 5 champions around it. So let me know, guys, what you think in the comments below. Did you go for Strategos ISLIN? Did you avoid all the negativity with him, and did you actually find a lot of use for him? I think he's very, very good. I will continue to finish his masteries, and then when I actually do a proper hard key next week, we'll see how much we can actually push with him in that team. There you go, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.